So hello everyone and welcome to another seminar session at the gradireland Graduate Careers Fair. I hope you're all enjoying the fair and embracing the virtual setting. So in this seminar, we're going to be discussing a career in engineering. And with me today to go through all of this is Kieran Lillis, Head of Electrical Engineering Department at PM Group, and Sarah Daly, Project Engineer, also at PM Group. So hello to both of you.
Hey guys.
Hey everyone.
So as always, if you would like to put any questions to the panelists, you can do so by using the chat function, and time permitting, we will come to as many as we can at the end. So send through as many as you can. So Kieran, if you wouldn't mind just kicking the session off today by giving a bit of background of, your role and your career journey to date, if you don't mind, please.
No problem. As Piers just mentioned, I'm the electrical department manager for PM Group, the Dublin office. Myself, I'm a graduate, honours degree graduate of within DIT back in 2006 in electrical engineering. I've fulfilled a number of roles since then. I was straight into the engineer consultancy business. I'm with PM Group about 8 years now. Some different roles from electrical engineer, senior electrical engineer, onto the deputy manager and now electrical department manager.
Excellent. And Sarah, what about yourself? What's your career background like?
My career background is a little bit shorter than Kieran's. I graduated from IT Tala, now TU Dublin Tala campus, in 2017 with an honours degree in mechanical engineering. So that's my background. And then I joined PM Group straight out of college in the projects department. So the projects department's a little bit different to kind of discipline engineering departments. We deal with all of the disciplines within PM Group, including architecture, and then also cost scheduling and stuff like that. And we're the coordinators of projects for all our clients.
Excellent. Sounds like you're both very, very busy people, so appreciate the time you have to give us here today. And it's good to get, like I said, Kieran, you're a bit more senior in your career than Sarah, so it's good to get the perspectives of both of you on this one call today. So Sarah, if you don't mind sticking with you for this one, can you talk about some of the challenges you face, whether that was in college or, I said you joined PM Group straight after, so maybe the challenge wasn't getting the job, but in terms of breaking into the engineering sector or challenges you face so far in your career?
I guess my joining of engineering and studying engineering was a bit different to maybe people that always wanted to do it, because it was never a field that I ever thought I'd get into. But here I am 3, 4, 5 years later. So it's been a roller coaster journey. I guess some of the challenges that I've come across in my career is kind of really pushing myself in terms of my overall career, and really putting yourself out there in terms of your development and learning. And the job that I do, it's a lot of learning on the job, and you're trying to think on your feet and think quickly and make sure that it's the right result for the client and for the team. So that's definitely been a challenge. It was a challenge coming in as part of the graduate program. So it was a steep learning curve, but it was one that I've thoroughly enjoyed along the 3 years, definitely.
Good, and it's really interesting to hear that it wasn't maybe the career that you first thought of that you ended up following into.
No, not at all. All the way through secondary school, I wanted to do physiotherapy. And then I was playing too much sport all the way through school, and one thing and another, I didn't get the points for physio. So I know there's a lot of students that are concerned now at the moment with points coming out. So I actually got engineering on vacant places. And here I am, 7 years later, and in a field of work that I never thought I'd see myself in, but it's been brilliant.
That's very apt, I think, at the particularly what's going on at the moment, to hear a positive story with the leaving cert.
Yeah, for sure.
People not getting the points. Kieran, just for yourself, I think obviously you would have faced different challenges to Sarah. I said you're more experienced and further along the career path. So you just talk about some of the challenges you faced along the way.
Well, from my point of view, it would be a little bit different, because I suppose it is a little bit more male dominated. But we in PM are trying to change that. We see a lot of our clients trying to change that as well. One of the things kind of has got to do with kind of changing that stereotype that it is for males only as such. Like an example is our minimum target for graduates, female graduates, is 30%. Like I said, that's the minimum target. this year in Dublin, we have 40% of our grads who've come into the office are female. So kind of what we're doing within PM Group is trying to, we think it's about early education and getting out to the schools from various different initiatives such as junior achievement, where we kind of reach out to kids that are in primary school, and then we kind of follow all that through up to transition year, taking interns, also Engineers Week. We're involved in local schools in the area and provide bursaries, to kind of encourage both male and female students into the kind of engineering sector.
Yeah, and I suppose, Kieran, from your perspective as well, as you said, I think maybe when you said it would have been a very male-dominated industry. So you've probably seen it evolve over the last number of years, I'd imagine.
Definitely, since I suppose I was in college, where there might have only been, you could count with one hand the amount of female students in my class at the time. You definitely see a change in that nowadays. In particular, in disciplines such as process engineering. We would actually like, in the kind of more the building side, on mechanical, electrical, structural. That's where I think there are areas where massive ground can still be made, and just about encouraging female grads to kind of come through that route. We have had some female grads recently in recent years in through the electrical department, and they have been absolutely fantastic, every bit as good as their male counterparts. So, we encourage, absolutely everybody, but definitely it's a choice for female that they can, excel in as well. So they can.
Yeah, and I think it's happening across a number of industries and sectors as well, that, the gender balance is becoming more 50-50, thankfully, or, 60-40 in some cases. But Sarah, it's interesting to get, your direct perspective on it. Did engineering always seem like a viable, I know you said you want to be a physio, but when you decided engineering was maybe something you wanted to go into, did you come across any stereotypes, or you put off by perhaps in your head you thought it was a male-dominated industry?
Funnily enough, not. I was always interested in maths and science, and it was a bit nerdy like that some people would say. I think I was in an all-girls school, so there was never really exposure to kind of things like tech graph or subjects like that, because the uptake just wasn't there. And maybe there's a stereotype in secondary schools or even primary schools that it's kind of more pushed towards guys. I don't know. To get back to it, if I had the opportunity to do something like tech graph or things like that, I probably would have taken it up just because I had an interest in it. But I think people need to, we need to relabel what engineering is, and that it's not kind of maths or things like that. It's problem solving. That's all it is. We're given a problem, whether it be by a client where they need a building or they need an upgrade to electrical kit or whatever maybe, but it's a problem fundamentally. And if you're interested in solving problems, then it's probably the right career for you. So I think maybe, I don't know if it's a rebranding exercise is needed, but that I'd say that would definitely help, because I don't think either boy or girl wouldn't be interested in solving problems. So yeah, that's definitely a different way to look at it.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great point to make, and that it's problem solving. So why would that be particular to a certain gender?
Exactly. Exactly.
It doesn't really make any sense. And it's interesting that you mentioned, in an all-girls school, you didn't have the opportunity to do tech graphics or something like that, because it would have been seen as a male profession. And I went to an all-boys school, and I would have loved to do something like home economics.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to have done something like that. I think it would have been really useful. So hopefully we see a change in that. But just sticking a little bit on this topic, Sarah, before we move off it, have you seen improvements being made? From your perspective, have you seen more people kind of come into the field and everything like that?
Definitely. I'm quite lucky in the company that I work for, in that we've pledged as a member of the 30% club, which is that we aim to hire all of our hires to be 30% women. I now, for the life of me, I can't remember the year off the top of my head, but that's and that's not on the basis of just trying to make numbers. It's a higher on merit, and the company that I work for, it's great in the fact that you're recognized for the job that you do, as opposed to, you know, oh, it's a girl in engineering or it's a guy in engineering. So in terms of like, I don't want to say kind of like, oh, it's because you're a girl in engineering, like, you know, that's why you're there. It's not. It's just because I seem to be pretty good at my job.
Well, that's good. I think it's important to know, especially in a graduate career, to have that confidence to go into a job, you know, is a big part of everything. And, you know, you don't gain confidence overnight. Like I'm sure in secondary school, they said, if you were, you know, given the job now, maybe you're told this is going to do, there would have been a little bit of panic, but having that confidence is great. And just to, you know, and it's good to hear the positive feedback, you know, 30% club, and the fact that even from your side, Sarah, you're seeing more females get involved is really positive and good to see. And just to go off topic now, Kieran, a little bit, you mentioned, I think you did your degree in 2005 and 6 or 6 in DIT. You know, you would have faced challenges obviously back then, but now breaking into the engineering sector, the challenges are completely different. So you can just talk about maybe what some of the challenges current graduates face in terms of breaking into the sector or trying to find a job, and what advice you'd have for them.
Well, probably one of the biggest things is kind of, I suppose, the challenge we see grads coming in. Grads get a good grounding in whatever discipline, you know, they kind of done engineering, be it structural, mechanical, electrical, process, whatever it may be. So to have a good kind of a technical basis to start from. One of the things we do see is that part of our job, as Sarah touched on earlier on, is problem solving. But a massive part of our job is got to do with, you know, relationships with people. So kind of when we bring in grads, you know, they might be shy, there might be, you know, various different things, a little bit to try and bring them out of their shell. So that's kind of, I suppose, the first challenge to overcome. But that's part of our job, is to bring people along in that regard, develop their soft skills in order to kind of just bring them through, and so that they can progress as an engineer in whatever discipline it may be.
Yeah, I think that's actually great advice, Kieran, there, in the sense that, you know, engineering, I think maybe people think it's all about the hard skills, the technical skills, but, you know, you do need those people skills. You will be dealing with clients, and, you know, and we deal with people within your organization as well. So having those soft skills of communication, the people skills is, you know, is vital as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Kind of touch, kind of like, again, going back to what Sarah was saying about, you don't have to be an absolute whiz on maths or have studied physics or anything like that. Like, say, I would study both of those back in school and in college, obviously. And some of the things you kind of touch on in college, you wouldn't necessarily need in day-to-day work. Depends on what company we're with, but if speaking about PM Group, again, a lot of it is where we are effectively, we mesh everything together. So you might not be the absolute technical expert in something, but we bring people together, and a massive part of that is relationships. So developing your soft skills and how to, you know, deal with people of different personalities, nationalities, cultures, and all that. And that's a big thing in that the world is so small nowadays that, you know, you get used to speaking to, you know, be it colleagues in Bangalore in India and colleagues in Wroclaw and in the States and all that. So it's very much a large part of your job is that element of it is talking to people and working with different people.
Yeah, and, you know, the people skills, you know, I think it's vital for any job now. I think it's one of the main things people will look for no matter what the company is. I suppose, you know, Sarah, from your point of view, because you wanted to be a physiotherapist and you were heavily involved in sport, I think the people skills, you built them up over time, and they probably came quite naturally to you when you went into PM Group. So it was probably a bit different. Kieran said there, you know, they're trying to get people out of the shells. But it sounds like you kind of, the opposite for you, you had maybe all the soft skills, but it was maybe more the technical skills that, you know, not that they needed to work on, but they needed a bit of improvement maybe.
Yeah, like, it's funny that Kieran mentioned soft skills. Like, I remember working with a PhD student who was looking at, you know, third level students coming out of college and how good or bad their soft skills was. And they said that engineers were the worst batch of students for soft skills. They just didn't have it. So, like, just to touch on that, I would say to any student that may be watching this, if you have an opportunity to present, make presentations to peers or to lecturers or anything like that, and just to have an opportunity in a a less pressurized situation to take it, because it made all that experience makes it so much easier. My background coming into college, yeah, like, I mean, I was involved in sport my whole life. I coached from when I was 15, so being able to kind of not so much tell people what to do, but interfacing with people of different ages and different backgrounds, it was definitely something that I was more used to. And so it was definitely an advantage coming into the job, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things you hear a lot of as well. Put down that you're a captain of your sports team on your CV. Do you know what I mean? It's something people want to hear, but it's about how practically did you use that? Talk about an experience of when you helped someone who was new to the team. I mean, that is the soft skill. That's how you develop that.
Yeah.
If we just stick with yourself, Sarah, on the next point, which is the C word, which I'm doing my best not to say today in any of these talks, if I can help it. It's impacted every sector. Some in negative ways, like the hospitality and the tourism sector, obviously, but then likes of pharmaceuticals, and they benefit from this as well. But the engineering sector, maybe if you can talk about how it's impacted that, whether it's in a positive way, a negative way, and maybe your role specifically as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess PM Group is quite lucky. I'd talk PM Group first, because we're quite lucky in a way in the clients that we deal with. There's 4 core areas that they would be in, which is pharmaceuticals, medtech, food, and data. So pharmaceuticals and medtech, obviously there's been a massive increase, whether it be ventilators because of everything that's going on, or pharmaceuticals in the race for developing a vaccine. Everybody's always going to need food, regardless of where you are in the world. And then data, with the transition from everything being paper and hard copy to cloud delivery and storage. So in the industry that we're in, we're quite lucky in that actually the activity of all our clients is in fact ramped up throughout this whole pandemic. So that's been definitely a positive. In terms of my own role, I would say it's been slightly more challenging on the basis of a lot of what I would do on a daily basis would be interfacing with people and talking face to face with people in the office and just like checking in. Whereas certainly during lockdown, when everybody was working from home, it's a lot easier for people to be so focused on the work that they ignore that email or they ignore that IM, not purposely. It's just the fact that people are busy. So that's definitely been something that needs to be adjusted to. But there's technologies out there that definitely help with that.
Yeah, no, it's great there. I'm sure, Kieran, you'd echo a lot of, what Sarah said there, but in terms of maybe PM Group as a whole as well, and your own role, and the engineering sector maybe in general, how has that been affected by the C word?
Well, I suppose there's probably 2 sides to that kind, in that, kind of positive and negative. If we're looking at ourselves, a PM Group, because as Sarah mentioned, the kind of sectors we work in, the sectors are so robust. In fact, we have been kind of just incredibly busy. Last year was our most successful year ever. We're on track again, despite all the issues with the C word this year, to kind of meet similar targets. But on the negative point of view, it's got to do with, again, touch on what Sarah mentioned, kind of interface and face-to-face. People have been kind of forced to work from home, although we've adapted very well to it. There's that element of kind of external factors where efficiency on projects might not be as what they were when you're working closely, side by side. Communication through kind of fatigue from Zoom calls, such things like that. And then kind of internal factors, whereas people kind of, might be just fatigue from working from home, kind of worry about their job, potentially with everything going on in the world, because nobody does know kind of what's ahead of us next year, anything like that. So those kind of factors, both external and internal factors, definitely kind of, brought negatives to it. But all in all, within PM Group, it's been, I suppose, a positive year all around, and kind of the outlook is good. So I'd imagine other companies similar to us in our sector, the engineering profession is a profession where there's going to be a requirement over the coming years. Everything has gone very much global at this stage, so as that company is not just reliant on work in Ireland. A lot of our work is done, we still do a lot of work in Ireland, but a lot of our work is in Europe, in the US, and further afield than that. So, there's plenty of opportunities for graduates in very exciting roles, working on massive projects. So, I prefer to look at it as the glass half full. So,
yeah, and I think across the seminars, across 2 days, what we've seen is there is positives to take from everything that's going on. I mean, there are still graduate opportunities out there. In some cases, some sectors have grown, and people are really desperate for graduates to join because they give that cutting edge view to things, and they're more likely to maybe develop a new idea, perhaps. I did have one last question, but I do want to get to some. We've got some good questions coming in here, which I think touch on what I was going to ask anyway. And there's one here specific to, PM Group. And I think I'll direct this one, to yourself, Sarah. It says, I'm also a female engineer. I went to an all-girls school, and it says here she's interested in the project management side. So how would you recommend getting a job in that field, or how do I go about getting on the grad program for PM Group?
To specifically talk about the PM Group grad program, you can log on to our website, pmgroup-global.com, and then there's a section on careers, and you can it's very easy to apply for the grad program through the website. I did it. It was 2 years long, and it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. There's a mix of technical and soft skills development, so it's well worth looking into. In terms of project management in general, I would say if you're still in college, or if you're just graduated, I would say look into maybe a consultancy or even construction, and get maybe a couple of years of technical experience under your belts. If I was to go back and do it, that probably would be the route that I would go down. And then there's always, if it's a good company, which there's a lot of good engineering and construction companies here based in Ireland, they'll have options to progress into the project management. Certainly, if you're kind of finished with with the technical side. So
yes, some really good, practical advice there, Sarah. I think that people can take on board. Kieran, I've just throw this one to you, which is, how should I prepare for an engineering interview? And I think that depends on, of course, the type of engineering role that it is. But maybe if we were to talk about a specific, a grad interview for PM Group, what's the best way someone can prepare for that?
Okay, well, we take, I suppose, obviously look at the person's CV, but at that stage, there's very little work experience. So when we take grads in for interview, what we're really looking for at that stage is, I suppose, attitude. If we feel that the person has the right attitude, they're going to have the degree behind them or master's, whichever it may be, you've something to work with there. And basically PM Group then will take care of the rest. So if you kind of show an interest, good attitude, aptitude for it, that's kind of you're halfway there then. So I wouldn't get too worried about the technical aspect, because it's very early days for a grad. So it's about just having a good approach. And if you fit well in the group, then PM Group will teach you the rest.
Again, Kieran, there's some great practical advice there, and I think hopefully over the course of the seminar we've debunked a couple of the myths associated with being an engineer, and maybe taking away some of the intimidation factor that maybe some graduates might have there. Like Kieran, you talk about the technical skills, don't worry about it too much. You have your whole life and your whole career to develop these and get better at them as well. But like I said, I could talk to vote you for ages. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for at the minute. So thank you very much, Sarah and Kieran, for your time and all your knowledge today. It's really, really appreciated. Thank you for everyone for watching and all the questions. Sorry I couldn't get to all of them. Do my best to get to as many as I can. For everyone watching, if you just remember to refresh your screen so that you can watch the next seminar. But apart from that, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Piers.